Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle, a special episode of State of the Jungle, live from Arrowhead Stadium. I'm with the boys. We've got Evan, we've got Logan, we've got our Kansas City Chiefs fan, Pranav Sri Raman in the house, along with his dad. And you know what? They're both Chiefs fans, but you know what? Here on the State of the Jungle, we invite everyone on the show. It doesn't matter if we're going to kick your behinds or if, no matter what the stakes are, guess what? It's AFC Championship football. We're live. We're here on site. We're pumped up for the game. How we feeling, boys?
Feeling great, man.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. Everybody's been great to us so far, man. Looking for a great game today.
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere here too. Tailgates are awesome. It's just been fun so far.
Championship weekend in Kansas City, nothing better.
As always, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Really appreciate all your support. Make sure you guys bring your comments in the comment section because, like we always say, this is your only Cincinnati Bengals interactive show live in studio. And we're here in the First Star Logistics mobile studio. So I'm pretty pumped up about it. Well, let's get to it, boys. Listen, Chiefs take on the Bengals. All right. I'm thinking about the Bills too much, I guess, right? Chiefs take on the Bengals take on the Chiefs here in Arrowhead today. And I got to get some predictions. I got to get what you guys feeling about the game. I know there was a lot of trash talk on Twitter between Bengals and Chiefs fans, but I got to be honest with you. We stopped in Kansas City at a barbecue spot called City Barbecue, rated at 9.5 out of 10, I would say, in terms of the food. And their fans were pretty nice. They walked up to us. They said, we hope that you have a great time here in Kansas City. But they did mention to me, we hope that you don't have a great time on the way back. Meaning they're hoping for our downfall. They're hoping for the Bengals to lose. Anyway, Logan, what are your thoughts on today's game?
Oh, man. I mean, I feel like, I give a little bit different answers than you guys, but something I think is going to be very, very, very important in this game is just the start of it. I think both teams are coming in obviously pretty banged up. Patrick Mahomes' ankle, this whole Travis Kelce ordeal, who knows what the heck is actually truthfully going on there. But regardless, I think whoever gets out to the lead is probably going to be in control of this game. Having Patrick Mahomes drop back on a bum ankle so many times probably isn't the best. Same thing for the Bengals. Having Joe Burrow drop back so many times with a banged up offensive line probably isn't going to be the best idea. So I think the beginning of this game is truthfully going to be way more important than I feel like it usually is. And we've had some comebacks past in this game, and I just don't know if that's going to be plausible for either team today.
What?
Yeah.
Usually on this show, I don't disagree with you, but I have to today. I don't feel like this Bengals quote unquote offensive line is as bad as people is making it out to be. I really don't think so. I think Jackson Carman's look good. If you want my honest opinion, I think the Bengals are going to be able to run the ball down the Chiefs' throat today. I genuinely believe so. I think Jackson Carman's a better left tackle for the run game than Jonah Williams. And I think he's going to be able to bully, what's the guy's name? Shark 2.0. That's what they call him now, right? Frank Clark. Apparently he has his spiritual reawakening every single playoffs. Listen, I'm going to get this out here. When you're at the highest level of competition, there's only so much motivation, right, that trash talk or it being a big game could do for you to make you want to step up and play better. Like, that's why I always found LeBron Corey, to be honest with you. It's like, oh, it's the playoffs, so, I'm going to go 0 dark 30 mode. I'm going to try harder. Okay. So everybody's like, oh, well, this is Frank Clark 2.0. I'm sorry. I haven't seen Frank Clark have an elite performance since when? When would you say?
Seattle.
Since Seattle days. So everybody thinks because he was able to have a good game against Trevor and things of that nature. I think it's a little bit different. All respect to the Kansas City Chiefs. I just don't buy the whole Shark 2.0 or, because they call it Burrowhead is more motivation. Listen, the fact of the matter is all the motivation for these teams doesn't come from trash talk. It comes from one thing. One game. You have one more game to be, headed to the Super Bowl representing your city, representing your franchise. So that's all the motivation you need. So all this crap about, I'm motivated because a team started saying this is Burrowhead, or I'm motivated because they said our offense isn't good. All that stuff goes out the window. That's stuff for fans to talk about. These players play on the football field and they know what's at stake, right? The chance to be for immortality, the chance at a Super Bowl. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, so like you mentioned about Frank Clark, that 2019, what we call it, Linsanity run, it was special. It was special. But, you can't rely on that guy to consistently get sacks. I'm looking directly at Chris Jones this game. Chris Jones has 0 career playoff sacks, and that doesn't mean he's a disappearing act necessarily. He's being disruptive, but finishing is really what he's not been able to do in the playoffs. Last year, we saw it when Joe Burrow scrambled out of that pocket and picked up yardage on that run. Chris Jones wasn't able to bring him down I'm looking directly at Chris Jones. I know the Bengals' backup offensive linemen have been playing really well, but this is a guy who's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate this year. This is a guy who had 15.5 sacks in the regular season. I'm looking directly at him. He needs to have a big game. Otherwise, Kansas City stands no chance.
No, I agree. And I think it was on regular dropbacks, he was getting a pressure on 1 and 5 dropbacks, and on true pass sets, when they know they have to pin their ear back and rush the passer, he was getting a pressure on every 1 and 4 dropbacks. So looking at all that, this is a Kansas City defense that's been different since week 10. Since week 10, they've been a top 5 defense in EPA allowed. They've been actually one of the top 5 units against the pass as well. Where their weakness has been, if you want to even call it a weakness, is they've been kind of middle of the pack against the run. Since week 5, the Bengals are first in rushing EPA. So if there is a way for the Bengals to attack, Malik said that the run game is going to be an important part of today, both maybe for the Chiefs as well as trying to rely on Isaiah Pacheco and maybe take a little bit of the load off against Mahomes. And for the Bengals, when they get those looks, where they get those light boxes, it's going to be important to be efficient with those opportunities, whether they are 20 attempts or if they're 10 attempts or 15, to try and make sure they're maximizing everything they can out of that. They've shown they can do it. They've shown they have a variety of different things they can rely on in the run game between zone, man, and gap schemes. They've shown that they can run effectively out of the shotgun. So I think that's going to be a big way that they can kind of make the Chiefs pay if they're trying to run that too high and really keep everything in front of them.
I agree with you. I don't know what that weird noise was, but I agree with you. The simple fact of the matter is the Bengals, listen, I think that this is going to be a tough fought game. Here's what I think is going to happen. We've been saying it for the last 2 weeks. I really believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are really going to try to get Isaiah Pacheco involved in this game heavy. And I do wonder, right, if they can't get it done right away. If you got Gravedigger and DJ Reader being able to stop the run, how quickly does Andy Reid abandon it? Pranav, nobody knows the Chiefs better than you. What are your thoughts on Isaiah Pacheco being involved in the run game or the Chiefs, that being their game plan? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have 2 philosophies in my head. We are either going to get an Andy game or an Andrew game. And what an Andrew game is where he decides to commit to the run first half and it doesn't go well for him. So he kind of short circuits and then tries to put the ball in Mahomes' hand and try to make him do everything. And I wouldn't recommend that. I would stick with Pop. I would see what he could do. Because his cutbacks on week 13 were absolutely vicious. He was picking up about 5 yards per carry week 13. He was cooking, as I would like to say. So I would not go away from Pacheco. I think Reid might, but I wouldn't go away from him. And another thing, speaking of the Bengals, you always mentioned that there's no answer for the 3-headed monster. But I think that, there isn't an answer for them, but you can limit how explosive that offense is by having that too high shell. So I think that makes the running game even more important for Cincinnati.
So here's the scary part about that. There is a way to limit them. But by limiting them, you allow a guy by the name of Hayden Hurst to eat. Mm-hmm. By limiting him, you allow a guy by the name of Joe Mixon to eat. By limiting him, you allow a guy by the name of, who had the game-winning touchdown, Chris Evans, to eat. So if you ask me, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs get out of their way. They almost get in their way by playing that shell defense. Especially, there's only one D team in the league that has really effectively done this against Cincinnati on a consistent basis, and they go by the Baltimore Ravens. Right. And the reason why the Baltimore Ravens are able to do that is because they have the personnel to do that. They have the guys to man up. They say Marlon Humphrey, go line up against Jamar Chase. They say Marcus Peters, go line up against T. Higgins. They say whoever, go line up against Tyler Boyd or Trenton Irwin. And then they have such a very unique linebacking core and Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith and the different pass rushers. And they're also one of the better teams at blitzing, right? That addition of Roquan Smith, the Chiefs don't have a Roquan Smith. No shot at Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is a good linebacker. Nick Bolton is not Roquan Smith. So I think that it's almost like when you're a kid, right? You're a kid and, there are certain things that you're good at. Let's say you're good at playing dodgeball, right? And your thing is just playing reckless. And then somebody says, you know what? Here's a different way you could play dodgeball, right? And then you implement that new way to play dodgeball. You might be good, but you might not be great at it. Why? Because it's not your MO. That is not the Kansas City Chiefs MO. Why? Because it's not Spag's MO. I think Steve Spagnuolo, and I mean this in the most respectfully disrespectful way. I think Steve Spagnuolo is the most overrated defensive coordinator in the National Football League. I don't know how he still has a job. To me, he's living off of the time with the Giants where he won Super Bowls. And I know, Evan, you probably think I'm being a little harsh right now.
Maybe a little bit.
I just think listen, this is a guy that lined Chris Jones up majority of the year at defensive end. This is a guy and Chris Jones who's a dominant 3-tech, right? And you decide to line him up at defensive end, and then you wondered why teams were gashing you up the middle in the run game. It's the little things like that. This is the same defensive coordinator that took George Karlaftis and said, you know what? I know what to do. We're gonna guard. We're gonna make George Karlaftis guard Jamar Chase. This is the same guy that we're talking about here. So no, I don't think I'm being harsh when it comes to Steve Spagnuolo. He has a lot of talent. This is the same guy that made Tyrann Mathieu look like a shell of himself. Tyrann Mathieu is over the hill for sure, but he's better than what he showed last year. I just think that this Kansas City's defense is so in need of an upgrade, and I feel so bad for them because reports just came out. Vic Fangio just signed with the Miami Dolphins. And if I was a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I'm sitting there like, God damn it, that's the guy that I wanted to coordinate my defense, because I genuinely believe this should be Steve Spagnuolo's last year coordinating the defense of the Chiefs. That's just my opinion. I think their offense has been carrying them. And who knows, maybe today I'll come out there and I'll be wrong. But to this point, when it comes to Steve Spagnuolo, I haven't been wrong. And I'll continue to say what I'm saying. The Chiefs don't have a defense, they have a fence.
Yeah, so about that fence, like you mentioned it, I don't think it necessarily is a fence anymore because they've added so much talent, like so much young talent. Karlaftis, McDuffie, not so much Cook, but Jalen Watson. I mean, they've just had an overhaul defensively, but then it's a fence, but it's like a cowering puppy behind that fence. And that's what Spagnuolo is. Like, he's hiding behind the talent, and the talent isn't being maximized right now to the best of its ability. Evan mentioned it earlier. That defense has gotten a lot better in the back half of the year. But then you see in points of the game, they can be exploited very easily, and it's very costly. Like last week, we saw they were swarming until in the end zone, Karlaftis got caught in coverage with Kirk, and that's how Jacksonville scored. Just points like that, like massive mistakes, come down to bite them, and that's the biggest flaw with this Chiefs defense.
Pranav, I want to ask you something, and I want to Logan jump in at any point in time because you know I have a tendency to talk long. I have a feeling, man, and I can't believe that I'm saying this in Chiefs territory right now, but maybe I'm saying it because I feel comfortable because I'm hanging in the First Logistic Mobile studio, and Chiefs fans can't hear me say this. I know I'm in the home of the Chiefs and all that kind of stuff. I have a feeling this game might get out of hand in the fourth quarter. I do. I've been saying it all week. I think that this Bengals football team is playing with an extra set of motivation right now. And the Chiefs will always, let me just say this. I respect the hell out of the Kansas City Chiefs. This is no shot. I think they will always be here. I think the Chiefs will always be an Achilles in the Bengals for the Cincinnati Bengals, the Achilles heel for the Cincinnati Bengals. I always believe the Chiefs will be, they will live in the AFC Championship game. That being said, this Bengals football team, I'll take them up against anybody right now, man. I think that they might win. I've been saying this to Daniel, man. I could see Cincinnati winning by 10. But I think it'll be close the entire game, and I think it might be a lot like the Buffalo game. Like that Buffalo-Cincinnati game, it wasn't close, but it was closer. It's weird. The Bengals were always in control, right? And I feel like today we might see that a little bit like that. I think a lot has been made of Patrick Mahomes' high ankle sprain. I think a 65% Patrick Mahomes is better than majority of the quarterbacks in the National Football League, to be quite honest with you. So I think as a defense, as a team, you have to prepare for the best Patrick Mahomes that you're going to get, regardless of what that Patrick Mahomes might look like. I just want to ask your opinion, because I know I have a tendency to kind of go off the handles, and these guys got to keep me in check sometimes. But I genuinely believe this could be a game. Like, I didn't see the Bills game getting that out of hand. I just don't think that the Chiefs hold the same defense that the Bills kind of have, and I think the Bills defense is better. I really do. What are your thoughts?
Could it get out of hand? Absolutely. Do I see it getting out of hand? Not necessarily, because I mean, throughout the playoffs in the past 2 years,
Yeah.
the Bengals offense hasn't been up to par in the fourth quarter necessarily. Just not generating a lot of successful drives like they do in the third quarter. If it does get out of hand, I could see it being late in the third quarter.
That's what I see, like the fourth.
But like in the fourth quarter, have you noticed, like even in the Buffalo game or even in games of the past, they kind of take their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And so I'm not necessarily sure if it would come in the fourth quarter if they get in field goal range, but that's not necessarily pulling away enough to like separate the gap by double digits. So if they are going to pull away, I would see it being in the third quarter.
And now we want to get to some of the comments in the comment section. But before I do, if you're looking to start your career as a broker, there's no better place than First Star Logistics. Been partnered with them since, I want to say, the end of August. It's like absolutely nothing but family. This is all possible because of them. We are out here at Arrowhead because of them, chilling with some of the First Star employees, and it's been absolutely awesome hanging out in the First Star Logistics mobile studio. Looking to start your career today as a broker, make sure you apply to First Star Logistics. The link is down in the description. I want to get down to some of the comment section. There's a guy in the comment section named Tree with Leaves. Tree with Leaves, you said the Bengals would have lost to the Ravens in the wild card weekend without a goal from recovery. You know, I that's the thing about football. Football is a beautiful sport. There's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but it's about what happened at the end of the day.
The game of inches, and then we want to say, oh, if that one play, if the one scoring play didn't happen,
right.
then yeah.
Tree with Leaves, I got something for you. There was a left guard for the Cincinnati Bengals last year by the name of Quentin Spain, right? And had Quentin Spain not been blocking the greatest defensive tackle our football, our league has ever seen of all time, if he would have given Joe Burrow just a split second. Joe Burrow had a wide open Jamar Chase running down the sideline free, who just beat the quote-unquote, at that time, best cornerback in football, Jalen Ramsey, and it would have been for a touchdown. But, shoulda, coulda, it didn't happen. Why? Because that's the margin of error in football. That's the margin of error in the NFL is so slim.
Right.
So we could sit up here, we could say shoulda, coulda, woulda. The fact that it is, here's Tree Believes here, and I understand you're a Chiefs fan. I understand you hear what I'm saying, but I really want to reason with you for a second. Let's level with each other, brother. The fact of the matter is the Chiefs don't have the same defense that the Baltimore Ravens have, nor are the Kansas City Chiefs the Bengals' division rival. So what does that mean? The Chiefs don't play the Bengals twice a year. I mean, under these circumstances, they do. But typically, you do not come into the league saying, you know what? I'm going to face the Cincinnati Bengals twice a year. Now, after this year, they might say that, but they're not our divisional rivals. There's nothing. Hear me out, brother. There is nothing like AFC North football. So do not compare your defense to the defenses in our league. It's the reason why the Browns know us. It's the reason why the Steelers know us. Right?
We heard all about why that Ravens game was the reason that the Bills were going to come out and the Bengals weren't going to be able to score any points because they struggled against the Ravens. Each of these games are individual. If we go back and we start looking at the Chiefs games, we want to say, oh, what about the Jacksonville game? What about both Broncos games? I mean, we can easily nitpick and say, what about this one play or if this one result was different? It's, again, that's the game. That's the game, man. So what happened. Could things have been different? Yeah. Absolutely. But, I mean, I'll listen to any other point. He's been making some great points about what the Chiefs have and what they offer and how good the talent is between Chris Jones. L'Jarius Sneed's been having a great year. They've really become better. Argue that. Don't argue 3 games ago something bad happened that if it went one other way, it would have been different, obviously.
See, here's the thing. Me and Malik got into a debate last year about necessarily the variance in the playoffs. And I'm like, Malik, the way the Bengals defense is playing is not sustainable. They're averaging over 2 turnovers a game. I've been where you're at, but at the same time, in these 1-2 game sample sizes, it doesn't really matter as much. Like if you're predicting future success,
exactly.
And I completely understand where you're coming from, but in these 2 game sample sizes, it's not as important as it's made out to be. Like the Minnesota Vikings this year, 11-0 in 1-score games. It mattered this year. I mean, they won those games. Credit to them. If you want to predict that they're going to fall off heavily next year, I completely get that, and I'm probably going to agree with you. As far as this year goes, in these 1-game sample sizes, it's just not as important as you're predicting the outcome of 1 game.
Excellent. So we got a good question. People are asking about Travis Kelce. Does anybody have any idea what's going on with Kelce and the Chiefs, or is this more
back spasms and he's expected to play, and I don't think he's going to miss a game like this. I mean, you? Come on. That's
why would he not play?
Yeah, Travis Kelce is not missing this game.
He could be hobbling, and I bet he'd be out there.
Yeah.
Utmost respect for Travis Kelce and the talent he is. I do not expect him to miss this one. The competitor he is.
He'll probably play every snap. Too.
Yeah,
fine.
And I want to just listen. We could go back and forth and talk about Chiefs, Bengals all day long, But can we just take a moment to appreciate? We're seeing two of the very best quarterbacks in the National Football League go head-to-head for the second time this year, in Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. This is my second time seeing this game. I feel spoiled. I feel it's a pleasure to watch Patrick Mahomes. It's a pleasure to watch Joe Burrow. So let's just get this out there right now. Like, I wish that I was of the age to watch Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. Like, actually go to a game, go to a stadium. So, like, it's just an absolute treat to watch these games because, as young as these guys are in their careers, it happens so quick. And then they're retired and they're off doing something different. Like, these are stories that we're going to tell our children. You know what I mean? So let's really appreciate the simple fact that we're watching two of the very best in their sport. And I feel like whoever you want to put at number one, put at number one. Whoever you want to put at number two, put at number two. I could care less. I'm simply saying it's a pleasure to watch this. It's a pleasure to watch Andy Reid, who I think is one of the best coaches in football. Absolutely. Doesn't get enough credit. He had success against Philly. People said he wouldn't have success in Kansas City. Came to Kansas City. He's one of the very best play callers our game has ever seen. So I just think it's an absolute pleasure that we're going to be watching this. Rivalry aside, that being said, it is trap season. This is the time, the time where the Cincinnati Bengals walk into Arrowhead and they take over Arrowhead. Because guess what? I think that this Cincinnati Bengals team is fighting for something that words can't really describe. Like, to me, I think you guys heard me give a passionate speech at Bengals gyms for those of you who went to the tailgate a few weeks back. And I said the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens, the Bengals are going to beat the Bills, and the Bengals are then going to beat the Chiefs. And then I will see everybody in Arizona. A lot of people get up there and they talk. I meant every single word of what I said. I genuinely believe nobody can stop this Bengals team right now besides themselves. And I think today's game is going to be more indicative of the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Chiefs. I think that this is a game where it could be the changing of the guard in the AFC. And I think it's going to be a power struggle. This is not to say the Chiefs will ever beat the Bengals. I think, guess what? When you have quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, it's always interchangeable. But right now, this Bengals football team has not lost since Halloween. And they're playing with their hair on fire. And guess what? Here's the beautiful thing. They're finding different ways to win. The best teams in football find different ways to win, whether that's offense, defense, and the forgotten special teams. The Bengals find different ways to win. And I think that's what makes them special. I swear to you guys, if I could compare them to any team right now, it may be a 2014, 2015 New England Patriots, just finding different ways to win, always evolving, whether that's through the run game, whether that's through Joe Burrow, whether that's through the defense. It does not matter. They always find different ways to win. We saw it's indicative in the playoffs. Their defense won them the game with Sam Hubbard's 98-yard touchdown return. The running game won them the game. Well, would you even say maybe the running game? They were running for 6 yards of carry. Won them the game against the Buffalo Bills. I'm curious what today's going to be. But one thing I'm looking forward to is the Chiefs are no pushover. The Chiefs are the best of the best that the NFL has to offer. So I want to make sure we get this down. There's a lot of respect for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think when it's all said and done, we'll all be grateful that we have watched the game. Let's get to some more questions, though, Daniel.
So we got a question here from Pedro. He said that Dan Orlovsky said the Chiefs have the ability to win if they put multiple tight ends on the field. What's you guys' thoughts about that game plan?
I mean, I would probably disagree because, right now against this Bengals team, they're probably going to man up. They played a lot of zone earlier, but they're probably going to man up because, quite frankly, the Chiefs don't have, outside of Travis Kelce, guys who can consistently beat man. And throwing out Noah Gray or Blake Bell with Travis Kelce all at the same time, like, what are you doing out there? Like, that's kind of what it comes down to. And, if you want extra blockers for Pacheco, fine, but that just kind of makes you really predictable. And to run inside zone, the Chiefs have one of the best interior offensive lines in the NFL. So, I just feel like that would be a counterproductive strategy. I would keep all the wide receivers out there.
I feel like you're almost inviting one of the league's best run defenses to then load the box even more in that case. So I understand that there's a lot of talk about the success rate of heavy personnel, especially against nickel and dime, is so high that there's an appeal to countering these multiple safeties and corners and smaller bodies that you have as linebackers as well, and counter that with bigger bodies and heavier formations, and then use play action out of that. I agree with you that I don't see that would necessarily be the best way. I am curious if we'll see more of Kadarius Toney. He's been very effective for him when he's out there, but he's still only playing about 15 or 20 snaps a game. Do you think they're going to try and involve him more as one of their more efficient receivers and weapons?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would have to. I mean, last game was really when you saw him really becoming a focal point within the offense. Like, he was getting the majority of the starting team snaps. I mean, it was like they threw screens to him. Mahomes, when he got but when he came back from the injury, his first couple of passes were screens to Darius Toney. Getting him going, especially with Mahomes' ankle injury, is going to be key because, I mean, you throw that guy a screen, you throw that guy a slant, and he's special. He's special. He is so special after the catch.
Yeah. A little bit of a weirder thing that just came to my mind there too. Both teams are gonna have to tackle really well today. You know, Kadarius Toney is obviously where my mind went with that. Jamar Chase almost breaks the first tackle every single time. We talk about the importance of the run game. Just fundamentally tackling people today, you know, is gonna serve a very, very, very large impact in this game.
Hey Malik, who makes a bigger play today, Trenton Irwin or Chris Evans?
Trent Irwin.
I was gonna say there's not this answer.
Trent Irwin, man. I think Trent Irwin is probably gonna make a really, really big play at some point today. That's gonna change the game. I do.
I think that's been active.
I was gonna say, yeah, they just really trust Mixon and P. Ryan.
You know who I'm excited for today, guys? Joseph Ossai. I'm so excited for Joseph Ossai this game because last game we saw him. He had that straight effort sack against Patrick Mahomes.
They need it, man.
Oh man! And I don't know if you noticed when they go up against quarterbacks like Mahomes, like the Allens, they like to put Ossai in the 3-tech, especially on third down, to get to to pressure the quarterback. I'm excited for this game, man. I mean, I couldn't miss this game, man. I had to be here, man. I had to put boots on the ground. I had to see what Kansas City was all about. They said at kickoff it's going to feel like -2.
Can't wait.
So, luckily,
there's a lot of heat coming off the field.
I wanted to ask you guys about the narrative that Mahomes' ankle injury can actually help the Chiefs' offensive game plan. I don't really see it being that way, but I wanted to know how they what you guys would think they kind of work along with that.
Go ahead. I was going to say the only way I could see that possibly benefiting them is if suddenly the Bengals decided that they were going to pressure Mahomes with blitzes to try and force him to be active on that ankle. I just don't see that as their game plan. They've had a lot of success dropping their defenders into coverage in a variety of ways. And I would almost argue the opposite because if you're blitzing them, you're going to be voiding zones. You're going to be giving up these easy short throws that they don't have to work through pressure, navigate, and make full field reads on. They can just try to throw to that voided zone, check down if they need to, throw hot. And I feel like that almost plays into the Chiefs' plan. So if that's the line of thinking, I can understand it, but I just don't see that as the way the Bengals want to do it. I would rather drop into coverage, make him bounce around on that ankle, give your pass rush time to get there, and try and muddy the picture a little bit pre and post snap, which they've done a great job of doing so far. So
it would actually make Patrick happier if you would blitz him.
I think so, man. He's so smart and he's so good. I wouldn't try it. I wouldn't. He's a lot like Burrow in that sense that it's foolish almost to blitz them outside of key downs where it's not to be expected to come.
And what you had has worked in the past too, so it's like, it hasn't worked. It's worked for the most part. It's like you don't want to change. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
So I've got a question for Pranav, and this is more, from the Chiefs' perspective. What is, if you were the offense coordinator and you look at Lou Anarumo and what the Bengals defense is doing, how do you attack this defense? Because Lou is absolutely, class Patrick Mahomes. What would you do to, defeat Lou Anarumo's defense?
It's going to be tough. I mean, you guys talk about it all the time, and I agree. Lou is arguably the best defensive mind in all of football right now, and I think that it's going to be tough. I mean, short passes, like I said earlier, the Chiefs don't really have a great way of consistently beating man outside of Kelce, so they might end up by playing in zone. I mean, Juju can fit within zones. MVS, he's not. Yeah,
His moments.
Yeah. Tony, I think he's going to be absolutely a key focal point in terms of either beating man or fitting inside zones and then creating after the catch. And like you mentioned, Isaiah Pacheco, I mean, that's really going to be what it comes down to. Will Andy Reid be willing to run with Isaiah Pacheco, even if it doesn't work earlier on, if the Bengals play heavier boxes, and then later on when they want to play lighter boxes, will he be willing to go to that, or is he just going to let Mahomes play hero ball? That's really what I'm interested to see. But I would stick with that game plan. Short passes, you're probably not going to get anything explosive over the top. So short passes and rely on Isaiah.
You know what's crazy? When he said Tony, I really thought he was talking about Tony Romo for a second. Because, that guy is terrible when it comes to Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. We got time for one more question because we got a tailgate to attend to. We got a tailgate to attend to, but we wanted to definitely make sure we brought you State of the Jungle live from Arrowhead, and we'll be doing a post-game show. We'll be doing a post-game show where we'll be talking about the happenings of the AFC Championship game. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a Cincinnati Bengals win, and we'll crack open some cigars and whatever the case may be. I don't smoke, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's get to one more question before we head out of here today.
So some people were, asking, or first off, Eli Apple pick 6. Thoughts?
I think that would break the internet.
Yeah,
that would break the internet.
Eli would personally break the internet after that one.
His mom would tweet so much. It would be absolutely crazy. I don't see that happening, but no, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. Well, we'll have to figure out. What's what. We'll see.
Eli Apple's never had a pick in his life. What are you talking about?
So the final question is, do you guys think that this Bengals team is peaking at the right time, or was the Buffalo Bills just a perfect matchup?
I think the Bengals are peaking at the right time. I think this team is on fire right now. What do you think?
You just said they haven't lost since Halloween, so it's like, there's no better time to really go on a run at the end of the season.
What's peaking at the right time? You're in the AFC Championship.
You've been winning for 10
weeks anyway.
Both of these teams are red hot. The only loss the Chiefs have had was to the Bengals.
Yeah.
Other than that, since the Buffalo game, which was around week 6, they've been red hot as well. Both teams, this is the peak. It's not peaking at the right time.
Right.
This is as high as they can get.
Well, I don't think the Bills were like a perfect matchup for Cincinnati. Obviously, the line said as much, and everyone kept telling you Cincinnati has no chance to win or Buffalo is going to handle this. It was a masterful game plan. It wasn't a perfect matchup where all the players were just better on the other side of the ball. It was a close matchup in a lot of different ways, and there were a lot of similarities between those teams. And we talked about those, from the safeties to the linebackers to their depth of the defensive line. So I think that was more about game plan than perfect matchup.
I want to hear from Pranav. Usually I close out the show with some big rant. Pranav, what does a Bengals win today mean for the guard, the changing of the guard in the AFC? How do you view today's matchup if the Bengals wind up beating the Kansas City Chiefs?
I view it in the same way that you do. People, Chiefs fans, Bengals fans, everyone got mad at me when I said the Bengals aren't they're not the underdogs. They're the defending AFC championship winners. They are the team to beat in the AFC. Sure, the game's at Arrowhead and we have home field advantage. That's great. But it's more that the Chiefs are trying to get over that hump of the Bengals constantly beating them. And that 3-score hump, that's what they're constantly trying to get over. And so until they get over that hump, hopefully that's tonight for my case. But until they get over that hump, I don't see how you can't say Cincinnati's not the team to beat.
Absolutely, man. I think it's going to be a great game no matter what. It's time to get some predictions now. It's time to give some predictions. Pranav, I'm going to let you start this one off. Pranav, give the prediction for today's game.
So if you guys follow me on Twitter at Pranav Sriraman or on Instagram, you guys have seen...
Or his work for TWSN.net.
If you guys have seen any of my predictions, you know that my bracket is perfect up to this point. I have the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship perfectly set, even all the divisional round matchups. I had the Bengals and the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Niners. And originally, I had a Niners versus Bengals Super Bowl. However, I am a Chiefs fan, and we've come this far. I know we've made it to 5 straight AFC Championships, but these opportunities in life don't come around all the time. So with that being said, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win today's game and make it to Super Bowl. You're going to go see it in Arizona. They're going to be representing the AFC. You heard it here first. Go Chiefs. Final score, let's say 32-29. You feel me? I have to go with the Chiefs.
Yeah. All right, Logan, what do you got?
Yeah, it's about what you expect from Pranav, obviously. A lot of the points there. His bracket is perfect. Make sure you look in the comments though, because he did have the Chargers at one point. But regardless, I don't really like to do score predictions too much. I'm just gonna go 31-27 Bengals. I think all the points we've talked about. I think both teams are gonna be able to score a little bit. I think obviously Mahomes is Mahomes. He's world class, best of the best. Travis Kelce, same thing applies. But I think both teams are gonna be able to score. And it's gonna be a fun football game. And I truthfully cannot wait to watch it.
27-24 Bengals. That's it.
He's going to score.
Original.
I think I'm going to go with 17-28 Cincinnati Bengals beat the Kansas City Chiefs to advance to the Super Bowl. And we'll be back here after the game, post game, to bring forth to you a post game show, right? So Pranav, Pranav is my guy over at TWS and the Right Way Sports Network. Does fantastic work for us. Even does a show, right? He's a big basketball head. Got tweeted at by John Moran a couple times, whatever the case may be. But you can catch point of the attack. But Pranav, may the best man win, man. May the best man win. May the best team win, right? We'll see what happens, but make sure you guys tune back here live for another edition of State of the Jungle, as we will bring you post-game coverage from Arrowhead, live from the First Star Logistics Mobile Studio. May the best team win. Let's have a great game, a healthy game, and who day?
Go Chiefs.
Right, up all day.